My dad had taught me to be independent. And in the early 60s, Farmers Home Administration, you could borrow that money. They were lending money for like 2 and 3%. But I didn't want it. He taught me not to go that way. I was keeping like about 800 or 900 head of hogs. That was pigs and big hogs all the time. And I was trying to sell 100 head a month. And every day I would go home. I'd be at my house at 12:30 to listen at the Gene Reagan Farm Show to bring the hog price. Because I was feeding a lot of them, and it got in the 40. I'd be there listening at the farm show. It hit 40 cents that day. I said, oh Lord, thank you Jesus. It's moving up. They got on up, a day or two later, 42. I said, they didn't move. I said, probably going to break 50 this year. I'm going to make some money, because I had them. It got about 45. I said, yes, sir, the price is moving up. Boom. Next day, fell like cent or two. It went back. Every day it went falling back. Fell out the 40s. I said, Lord, how much, what it's doing? It got back in the 30s. But I still got all these hogs. I'm still got to go get these feed. I get 14 tons 1 week, 7 tons the next week. I'm taking hogs off, they're falling back. They won't pay my feed bill. And I said, Lord, how much, what's going on? But it kept falling back. I started selling down. And the hogs, they done fell from 40-something cents a pound. Hog got under 5 cents a pound. That was in 1980. I told my wife, I said, well, I quit the state in 65. And there was 8. I hadn't worked for no way from 8 of then. I was farming. I said, I got to get my job somewhere and go to work. So I was able to get a job over there at the ACI, Department of Correction. And at that time, I owed that feed company $10,500 something. And I went to him and talked with the man, tried to pay him about a month. He said they need the money bad. I said, mister, I ain't got it. You can't get blood from a turnip. I said, I'm going to do the best I can, but I ain't got it to pay you right now. So he talked kind of hard about it. I said, well, you can say anything you want. I ain't got it. You can't get it. Do what you got to do. I went to work the Department of Correction. Every 2 weeks when I got my check, they had a branch office in Chattanooga at that time. I'll go there, cash my check, get them $250. I paid them $500 a month. I left the hog alone. I went straight to the cow. I didn't have many, but I worked at ACI. I raised a few cows, and I worked there till I paid them $10,500.
Yes, that's up in southeast Alabama, and in a very, very rural area. I was up there going to Cottonwood, to the hot springs. They have a hot springs in Cottonwood, Alabama. And oh, it's a wonderful place. And on the way up there, on the back road was this little house with a very well-kept yard, all raked. Small, small house, and a beautiful black lady up on the front porch in a white linen dress. I'd always wave to her, and she'd wave to me when I'd be going up to the hot spring. Finally, I stopped in there one day to ask her after I noticed that she had a beautiful patch of the elephant garlic growing in her backyard. And at that time, I only knew the elephant garlic was coming from California. And I knew this old lady had not ordered fancy garlic, gourmet garlic, from a seed house on the West Coast. So I talked with her for a minute, told her who I was and where I was from. We talked about the weather. And then I asked her, where did you get your beautiful garlic? And she looked at me again and made sure I wasn't with the government, and looked me right in the eye and said, Lord, child, my mama's mama brought that over here on the crossing. And I hair went up on the back of my neck, and I knew then that this was the old ancient garlic. And I'd heard a year earlier or so, watching an old farm show up in Dothan, Alabama, with Gene Reagan. He'd come on at noon. I'd be in there having a sandwich or something out of the field. Gene would wear this little cowboy hat and tell you the farm report and how hogs are doing and everything. And he said he was excited because he had the Garlic King coming in today to talk after he gave the commodity news. And I said, the Garlic King, I got to see him. And so this gentleman showed up, and he was in his late 60s, early 70s, and had an old Colonel Sanders goatee. And old Gene could tell he liked him, and he said, "You still growing your garlic?" And he said, "Yeah, I've got it going up there." And he was a big proponent, saying that it was a great crop for small farmers in this area. And I said, "Well, I can't believe this, they're growing it up there too." And he said that the Indians told him that it was the only thing the white man brought that was worth a damn, was this garlic. But the Garlic King said it too. He said the white man didn't bring it. He said the slaves brought it. The white man had the ship, but it was the slaves that brought the garlic, which came from North Africa. And that's the oldest garlic on the planet right there. You can take these pearls that we're growing and cut them in half, and you'll see the shape of a spade. A spade is Arabic architecture. That was another clue that this is some kind of different garlic. So this isn't just regular garlic, this is the garlic. And now we're in that process of learning more and more about how to grow this old ancient garlic. So stay tuned.
I grew up on a farm and stuff, and that's all I knew, and that's all they did was farming. On the back of farm, then after the back of farm, it went to tomato farm, pole beans, and squashes. I didn't want to be a truck driver, no fisherman, or a hunter. I just loved farming, I loved the land, and I loved watching stuff grow. And at the end of the season, I love harvest, picking it. Like just being on the tractor, turning the dirt, getting the road, getting the beds ready to plant the seeds and stuff, and watching it grow, and just talking to it. And it does, growing plants do have life and stuff, you know what I'm saying? It's alive in the ground, you know what I'm saying? It's alive. My children, they love it too. They love watching it growing, and so that's what I want them to be. I want to do it for them, make it where they can do it after me. And see a little something coming in and stuff to keep it going. I never knew about farming until I met Max. Watching how he do it and the way we do it. Way they did it was, like I said, with all that chemical fertilizer. We don't do it out here. Back, they were spraying, they was fertilizing, and all thing. We keep it natural. You know what I'm saying? Putting good stuff in the dirt, and taking out of there and putting good stuff back in the dirt. The way they did it and stuff, the way the man who they were working for told them how to do it, and how they had to do it. Whether it was good for your health, or they do it or bad for your health, that's the way they did it. The way we do it, it's good for our health. We eat it right out of the field. Like then you had to soap wash it before you eat it. Get all the stuff off of it. Out here you could take it and get a little pollen off and you put it right in your mouth, like medicine. I love it. I don't like leaving, going somewhere else. I love it out here. I love farm. I love just being out in the field and stuff. My full-time gig is driving, and that's something that I do it, but I don't, really don't, I guess don't like doing it. You know what I'm saying? It's instead of it energized, it de-energized. It's energized me, because my hand, you know what I'm saying, earth and life. And I got to do what I got to do, but for money to come in, for the family, and support the family. Advertising and marketing. That's my vision. I invest in cards and flyers. I pass my cards out in stores and even doctor office and courthouse and schoolhouse. I hang up my flyers. That's how I advertise the Green Man. And then they just call. They call. Everybody call me from the churches, schools, and some restaurant they get it and they'll call me for a few, some bundles.
Bueno, pues hace 43 años nosotros llegamos a este país, venimos ilegales, no teníamos papeles, pero siempre llegamos aquí y pues desde entonces nosotros trabajamos en el field, en la labor, siempre levantando todo lo que es la cosecha que produce la tierra, desde tomates a calabaza, berenjenas, y pues para nosotros es muy dura el trabajo de la labor del field, es demasiado duro, tanto cuando hace frío como cuando hace calor, pero también es un orgullo levantar la cosecha que va para la mesa de tantas personas que se llevan el plato a comer. Todos mis hijos también los trajimos en el campo desde chiquitos, ahí crecieron, se casaron y pues se fueron.
También venimos de Guanajuato, también igual nos vinimos sin papeles, nos brincamos el río. Entonces nosotros nos vinimos a hacer una casita siquiera. Ahí sufriendo y navegando, pero llegamos aquí, gracias a Dios.
I always was the tractor driver in the fields. And I started, like I said, driving when I was 4. I was hardly big enough, I wasn't even big enough to reach the clutch. So you sit on the seat and when you get ready to stop, I used to have to just jump down on the clutch. I was so little, but we always grew tobacco. We never grew shade tobacco, but we always grew sun tobacco. Even back to my great-granddaddy, Joe Brown, and even his father, which is Silas Brown. But we always, for years and years, grew tobacco from the late 1800s, and I was the last one to grow tobacco in this county, and I stopped in 2006. My dad, we always had this thing like, I supposed to do better than my dad, but you know, my daddy did do better than my granddaddy, and my granddaddy did do better than his dad, but my dad, you know, most of this you see around here is the hard work of my dad, you know, so be kind of hard to top, but I'm half smart. So over the years, transitioning from tobacco, this part of the year I do peas, and in the wintertime I do greens, mustards, turnips, collards. There was a time like when I was growing up, when it was pea time, peas, butter beans, if your friends come over, your cousins, everybody got to get a pan, you know, you shelling peas, which now I have a pea sheller that I can shell a bushel of peas in 5 minutes. The Piggly Wiggly local chains have been real good to me. Also Quality Meat right here in Quincy. They treat me real good. They buy most of their peas come from me. I take them to them sometime 3 times a week, just depending, sometime 4. And also over the years, we've developed the muscadine grapes, the scuppernons. I have like 2.5 acres of them back there. We started out with just these 4 lines right here. And the way how we came up with this idea, everything me and my dad planted in that space back there, we tried to plant sweet potatoes, the deer would eat them up. So that property, we wasn't kind of doing nothing with it. And we see like potential in these things. And I just told my dad one day, I said, what we need to do is just go ahead and plant the whole grove. It was kind of like one of those things, if you build it, they'll come. I could just feel something about it. And when those scuffernons get ready, I can't keep them. 80% of them I sell just right here. Sometime on a Saturday, you come out here, there'll be 20 cars, you know, just in and out coming to get them. I have a U-pick if you want to, but 90% of the people just say, hey, you know, because it's so hot. But my vineyard is real clean. It just be so hot. And some people just like the tradition of, you know, taking their kids, showing them something that come off of a tree. And, you know, I'm kind of now working on a program from the farm to the school. So that's really working out for me. So this year I'll be selling my products, you know, in the school system. So that'll work out real good. So the tobacco worked for my dad. You know, it's kind of like a saying. People say, well, what was good for my mama is good enough for me. Well, what was good for my dad wasn't good for me. My dad had to walk to school. I rode the bus. You understand? So, you know, if you got a job every other Friday, once a month, twice a month, once a month, every week, every Monday, somebody gonna cut you a check to say to the order of so-and-so. And out here, I can grow the prettiest sweet potatoes. I can get the peas right there just to pick, and a bunch of rain could come and it's all gone just that fast. If you can't get in there and pick them, you can't get in there and pick them. You know, it's a gamble. You know, it's a joke. I like to tease people. I say, I'll come out better taking me $60,000 and just going to Las Vegas and take a chance. I might win. I say, at least when I lose that, I know I had fun versus I got to farm all year and you put your money out there and then you lose it and you worked hard and ain't got nothing. So, but it works out. I mean, the bottom line, I know there's a source of power that's greater than myself. All I can do is put the seed out there, you know, and he gives the increase. And I believe that. And I do believe I go out there and do what I'm supposed to do. I've never seen it fail. And it always comes through. It always works out some kind of way. And at the end of the rainbow, there's always a pot of gold or there's always a ram in the thicket. So, I mean, it works. I mean, it works for me.
When the people that worked in the barns, and you know what the barns look like, you know, there were probably 11 on this farm. But when they converted from hand stringing to mechanical machines, when Dick would come home from school and after college too, when he was there, he'd drive up and his dad would say, Dick, come on, I gotta get you to fix this machine for me. And he was really good at helping with the machines. And then later on, at that time, earlier than that, I wish I could remember dates better. But even if I had written them down, I wouldn't be able to find them. But anyway, we had charcoal pits in the barns. When the tobacco is hanging on the strings, it had to be just right. And we started off with charcoal pits in the barn. And then someone had to stay all night to be sure that was looked after. And then they converted to the gas little burners. And that still had to be monitored all the time. But at the demise of the tobacco, all of those things had to be gotten rid of, and the barns were no longer used except maybe to store hay, or I can't think of anything else. Can you, Wendy? Yeah, that's about a memory than I do.
So the coal and the gas were to dry out?
It would bring it to the right temperature, and you had to feel it, you had to see it, and it was a certain color that would turn.
And still be flexible enough.
Oh yeah,
to
and
shape.
not tear.
So not
but
too
when
dry.
they got into the factory, they could spread. Of course, you sort of more or less went through auctions to sell all this tobacco. But when it got into the factory, they could spread it out, one leaf at a time, and cut. It cut something like the shape of a cigar that would wrap around the outside. And the filler, at that time, we were doing this, the outside leaf. The center was raised in Cuba, the filler part in Cuba, and then they raised some of the outside too, but it was mainly, and when we got on different sides of Cuba, all the Americans were sent off the island, and that our filter, that was, more or less the end of that. There were several things that worked against the demise of the tobacco.
It wasn't just that, well, I liked it or disliked it. It was a way you survived. It was a way you survived. Like I said, most of my work in the farm and stuff, I always tried to help provide for my mom and my other brothers and sisters, because it was rough. It was rough. It wasn't no cakewalk. I had a rough life, but I didn't have a rough life because I could look at some other people and look at their life and see how rough it were with them. They was having a rougher time than I were, simply because they was living on those farms. They was living on those farms. And I witnessed one time when I was about I guess about 10, 12 working in the tobacco. We worked, and the guy that I was told tobacco for, he got mad because they was working by the piece then. You give you a punch. And he was contradicting the guy that was giving the punches out. And the boss man come out there and told him that you done got all you gonna get. And the guy made a statement, I'll go home. And the man told him at that time, you'll go home. Said, where your home at? Said, your home is somewhere ain't never been built. He said, cause that house you live in is my house. I decided then, as I looked at it, and said, I never want to live on nobody's place. I never want to really not have some of my own. So my entire life, I started putting a little bit back, as they call for hard times. I put stuff back for hard times. I always wanted a home of my own. And I guess I was 21 years old when I got married. But I bought a house when I was right at 19, going on 20. I bought that little section, a 28 by 40 house. I bought, and they brought it. It was a prefab house. They brought it in, set it up. And I worked to get my own place. My grandmother gave me a spot of land, this little spot right here, to put my house on. I never wanted to be under nobody else's thumb. They tell me you got to go, you got to do this. So I worked hard on the farm, not because I really loved it. That's the only thing I thought I could do. No, I knew it was other things out there, but I knew it was things that will feed me, take care of me, and help take care of my mom.
We had found there was a demand for lambs and goats in the South, but nobody was processing them. That's why I built the plant mainly to do lamb and goats. And we were gonna do the ostriches and the emus and all that, and it never did do very much. Matter of fact, I put a lot of money and a department there on the plant to do them, especially do them. USDA required us to have a special type unit to process them in, and it never did do anything. But the goat and lamb started out pretty good, not as well as the research we had done, we intended it to do. And we found out the biggest problem was most of the people was people from other countries, and they didn't want to pay the American price for it. They wanted them for cheaper than I could really afford to sell them to them. I just couldn't. But we tried to work with that, and I finally found some markets in Miami, and I was doing pretty good with selling. We were shipping them down. I had refrigerated trucks and all that stuff. We were shipping them down there, and we were doing okay. We were able to get enough hogs, but lambs and goats, I was not able to get enough of them from this, even up here. I bought from people around Thomasville, Cairo, Bainbridge, Colquitt, all through these areas. Few people had a few goats, but it wasn't enough to supply my demand. So I bought a Dodge diesel truck with a long tandem gooseneck trailer, and we started hauling goats and lambs out of Texas, because I could buy them for $10, $15 a head, and I was paying $30, $40, $50 for them around here. So I was doing pretty good until the company in Texas opened up the slaughter plant, and they basically took the business from me, so I had to move away. I just closed it down, and I moved away eventually. But I stayed here until I was like about 50 years old before I ended up going to Atlanta. And I, as far as I know, I was the first person to ever make a goat smoked sausage. I had them in the supermarkets. I had them in IGAs and some of the Publix and Winn-Dixie stores, but they didn't sell very good. It was just what the time wasn't right. Now people eating lamb and goat because they recognize it's healthier than eating the pork and the beef. So now they're eating it. So now you can sell it. I'm selling quite a bit here